Hi, I'm Garry Shrum. I'm the department manager for music, and we are extremely excited to tell you some great news. And my colleague,
Gary Mayes. I'm so glad to be here. I'm a cataloger and consignment director for Heritage Auctions. And boy, do we have something to show you guys.
this is we've been looking forward to this. This is the 60th anniversary of the Beatles coming to America. Can you believe it? It's been 60 years.
It's just amazing to me that many years later, the Beatles are still relevant.
Oh yeah,
you know,
and they changed music forever. And people are still influenced by their music, and new people are hearing Beatles songs and they're going, wow, this is really great, I like this.
You know, we're already the faithful, but it's so wonderful to see newer and young generations turn on to this music because it is timeless. It absolutely is.
And what's really cool about it, how it all started, you know, going back to the very beginning with them putting out a backing single with Tony Sheridan for My Bonnie, which was a song that was taught to Germans for learning how to speak English.
Absolutely.
And Tony Sheridan had the idea, hey, let's make a rocker out of it, and used the Beatles as his backing band, called them the Beat Brothers, and that started a buzz, and it got a buzz going in Liverpool, and everybody was checking out the band, and we have all kinds of pieces from the whole history of the Beatles to offer in this auction.
It's so amazing. You know, if you guys look at this wonderful display that is behind us, I mean, that to me screams Beatlemania. You know, what's wonderful about this whole situation was Ed Sullivan was in London at the airport with his wife. He was coming back through to go to New York, and there was this huge commotion. There were so many people. And he had mentioned, is the Queen here? And what had happened was that the Beatles were coming back from Sweden, and there was an estimated 1,500 to 2,000 people there. And he's like, what are the Beatles?
And the girls were screaming at the top of their lungs, so it really got his attention. And he was a promoter, and he said, I want some of that at the Ed Sullivan Show in New York.
Let's do it.
Let's start off with the beginning. Here's a DJ copy of My Bonnie by Tony Sheridan and the Beat Brothers.
1962, pink label.
Yeah, 62, just wow.
Just unbelievable.
And what happened? Nothing. Didn't chart, nothing happened in the US.
Yeah,
it just didn't get played. People didn't get it. They got it over in Europe because they were using this song, My Bonnie, but here it was like, why would anybody want to do My Bonnie for a rock and roll song?
Exactly.
But it worked.
What a great precursor to what came next.
Oh yeah,
we've
got several UK promo singles in the auction. We have the Love Me Do, which is a great DJ copy, and we have the Please Please Me, which is also released in '63.
And there's supposedly only 20 copies left that exist, and this is one of the finest ones I've ever seen.
Yeah, there's somebody sitting somewhere with it in their collection that don't know.
Right, exactly.
Maybe they'll see this video and say, hey, Heritage, we want to consign this. For a couple of months, there was the Please Please Me with the gold and black label.
And it also had the Dick James music credits.
Exactly.
And that's really spectacular to even find that, much less in this condition.
Yeah, a stereo copy is very difficult. And you see them selling for in the upwards of, in this kind of condition, 20,000 and up.
Oh,
and this,
absolutely.
as you can see, this is stunning.
It is.
It is just brilliant. Mm-hmm. And during this whole insanity, you know, Capitol put out a bunch of Beatle albums. We've got a slabbed Beatles second album that is just remarkable. In fact, I believe I've got it right here. And also released in '64. And this is something new that this just started with vinyl this year. I'm going to unpackage this so people can get the full money on this. It's graded a 9.0.
I mean, for an original issue, that's amazing.
And somebody didn't open the record. Can you believe that?
One of the few.
One of the few. So this will also be in the auction with some other slabbed records that we'll talk about later, and some of you can go onto our website and see. It's just the best of the best when you get to this type of quality. And something else that we have here, same year, '64, The VJ had lost the contract to the Beatles because they had not paid Parlophone what they were supposed to pay them in royalties. And as of mid-October '64, they had to cease and desist. So he was putting out anything he could think of to make money.
He sure was. Again, this is right at the tail end when they were getting the cease and desist. And what's wonderful about this, other than it's the stereo portrait cover, but it's in the original shrink wrap. And you just don't see that.
Yeah, the stereo's printed on the shrink wrap. And then you've got in here is Pick a Tune label going across the corner here. And it's just so cool to find it in this kind of condition. And this is spectacular.
Very desirable.
Very, very excited to talk about that. And we've got some other different things here too, tickets as well coming up in the auction.
So one of the wonderful things, of course, everybody thinks Shea Stadium, and that was when, in 1965, that was the biggest concert for a rock group in the history of music, and Sid Bernstein was the promoter.
Any concert,
whether
it was classical or blues or country western.
So this is from 1965, and there were over 55,000 people that went to this. And what's amazing about this is Sid Bernstein made the deal with Brian Epstein. It was a verbal handshake over the phone. And Sid Bernstein, pretty much put up the money to do the tickets. It was all done through the mail. There definitely wasn't anything about an internet. And talk about two men with character and integrity, Brian Epstein as well as Sid Bernstein.
Absolutely.
I mean, talk about the Super Bowl of point of sale material. I mean, there is nothing that I've
rock
seen
back and forth. Hey.
And, of course,
rock out.
A lot of the stores and retailers had those, and very few lasted. They really did, because a lot of the after they sold, of course, 3 million sold at the time. It says, which is really cool. Then a lot of the retailers just threw them away. I mean, they didn't know who the Beatles were, didn't really care. So.
Yeah, it's a really, really great piece.
Talking about the single that started it all, this is an actual gold, white matte, I Want to Hold Your Hand, presented to Capitol Records. One of the things that the Fabs were talking to Epstein about was, we don't want to go to America until we have a #1. Because they didn't want to fail. They were building momentum across Europe and the UK, and when Epstein told them, I Want to Hold Your Hand's gone #1 in America, of course, they were like, when can we go? And this is a white mat for them.
This is white mat, and it came from an office in Detroit. When this office closed down, like a lot of record offices did, they auctioned off the stuff off the walls, and our consignor actually got this through a friend that bid in an auction, and we're lucky enough to have this up in the auction. Isn't that just fantastic? And speaking of gold record singles,
oh my gosh, I've always been partial to this one. Of course, Penny Lane, and presented to Capitol Records. This was the, as you guess, double A side, Penny Lane, Strawberry Fields Forever. And I remember reading an article that George Martin years later goes, gosh, we should have put them out separately. It really didn't matter, but because everything they put out normally went #1, but this was obviously one of those situations.
Just great. Which single do you like the best? It was difficult, but
it was. To me, this is when John and Paul had the friendly camaraderie together. They were writing, they were creating, and they were doing it on such a high level. And this is an example of that.
Very, very cool with it. But look at this.
Look at this. This is amazing. Thank you. The publishing signed by John Lennon and Neil Aspinall of Glass Onion. I mean, talk about a wonderful rocking song on an epic album.
Oh yeah, the White Album was just magic, and that song, of course, is one of the best.
One of the best ever.
Somebody got this and made this really nice presentation of the music and the information for the contract, and the signature's extremely legible.
So, I mean, talk about displayable, ready to go into your collection.
Yeah,
awesome.
That's just great. Now, this just gives us goosebumps here. This is the White Album, UK top loader, stereo. It's got all the records in really great condition, unbelievable condition.
It has all of the contents, but there's a reason why it's one of the most awesome I've ever seen.
John Lennon's personal copy number 6. As you can see here, we've got 0000006.
And it was given to John's personal chauffeur by John, and his name was Les Anthony. And Les apparently had started working for John right around when the White Album came out. So you can imagine Les, was like, oh, that's nice. He had no idea what he was being gifted at the time, I'm sure.
I got the White Album gifted from John, and I get to drive the psychedelic Rolls Royce.
Yes,
what
amen.
Better a job could that have been?
But
pretty amazing. But this is in the auction. You can own this. This is just unbelievable that this has shown up.
Oh my gosh, it's one of the Beatles albums that was given to one of the Beatles. Talk about a once in a lifetime opportunity indeed.
No, that's just really great.